I recognize the member from Saskatoon University.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy to stand in my place and provide my comments and my support for the throne speech from last week. I think it's been said here before, but I think we all should be very thankful and know how blessed we are to be able to stand here and do the work that we're doing. And I know that I'm very thankful for many things in my life, but I'd like to bring to light a few of them. I'm thankful for our Premier and the leadership that he has provided to us over these last 10 years. He has provided it with integrity, dignity, humility, and has really set the bar high for anyone who wants to follow in his footsteps. I only got to serve with him for just a little bit over a year, but I'm very thankful and blessed that I was able to do that. Not many people have been able to do that, and for that I'm really thankful, and I think our province should be thankful for the good governance and the proud and strong leadership that he gave us. I have a few other people that I need to thank, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and as everyone else has done the same. I think I need to start with my partner, Donna Lynn. I think it would be very hard to do this job every single day without the support that we have, all of us have, at home while we're here in this place doing the work for our constituents. To put this in perspective, Mr. Speaker, we're here from Sunday to Thursday for 17 weeks of the year. And now that doesn't seem like very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but we seem to be here at the busiest time of the year, and that's the busiest time for school and activities and life in general, Mr. Speaker. I have 3 young daughters, 13, 12, and 10. Now, they each play soccer, and of course, because they're all different ages, they play on all different teams, and they're very competitive. They practice at least once a week, every week, and they have at least 2 games each week as well. So, Mr. Speaker, in those short 17 weeks, when we're down here in Regina, that's over 100 events, and that doesn't count the tournaments that they're in. And some of those tournaments fall on the weekend, and so I'm able to be there and watch them. But more often than not, all those games and practices happen from Monday to Thursday. Donna Lynn gets them to each and every one of those practices and games. Never late. Maybe sometimes they're hungry, but they're at every practice, game, and tournament. And for the most part, Mr. Deputy Speaker, they're there without any help from me at all. She does this while holding a full-time job. She does her charity work, and she sits on various different boards as well. So you can see, Mr. Speaker, I am blessed to be able to do this job, and I owe her a debt of gratitude. So thank you, Donna Lynn. Now, my kids sometimes get the short end of the stick. That's what happens when you're the son and daughters of a public servant. Many days and nights I'm not around to celebrate their successes, but I hope they all know that I'm very proud of them and I love them. Now, my son Connor works at Canadian Tire. He's been there for 3 years. He's now a supervisor in the service department. He does a good job, and he's very proud of the work that he does. The biggest issue they have, Mr. Deputy Speaker, at the store is being able to hire qualified, available, and service-oriented staff. They're a busy, growing, and robust shop, and are struggling to ensure that their ranks are always full. Now, that's a problem, but it's a good problem to have. I know that back in the day when I got out of school, no, it wasn't that long ago, there was usually 20 applicants for every single job. Now, Connor's team will survive, and they'll succeed regardless of those challenges. They have a good team and good leadership, and like I said earlier, it's a good problem to have. The alternative has been seen before, and we know how that turned out. My parents were both teachers, and I was blessed to be able to stay in Saskatchewan once I graduated from high school and continue my schooling. They made many sacrifices, Mr. Speaker, as parents do, to ensure my siblings and I were able to stay here, get educated here, and make the choice of a career. Unfortunately, all three of my siblings had to move away as there was no opportunity here. And that's too bad. I have to say thank you to my mom. These past 5 years as I sought public office has been tough on her. We aren't used to being in the limelight, either good or bad. She was always humble and preferred to work in the background. Mom has been a tireless volunteer at church and most recently on my campaigns. So, Mom, thank you. Saskatchewan almost single-handedly built Calgary. Our greatest exports were our kids. The standard graduation present, especially in rural Saskatchewan, was luggage because our parents knew we would head out to greener pastures. I hated that time in Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. I personally had already graduated from SciAst and had to work a full-time job and a part-time job just to make ends meet. I didn't really enjoy it very much, Mr. Speaker, but I love Saskatchewan and I wanted to stay right here. I also have to thank Madeline Fast. My constituent assistant is a godsend. I have to give her a big shout out. She looks after everything in the office, makes sure all the correspondence gets followed up on, and that she provides great customer service. She has a heart of gold and treats every single constituent like family. She does a fantastic job of ensuring that our constituents are heard and we act on all of their concerns. Maddie also has another job. She makes sure that I get to where I need to go when I need to get there. After attending about 400 events since I was elected in April of 2016, that can be a big challenge. But every day I get to each and every one looking as good as she can make me. And that's quite a feat, let me tell you. It's a test. So thank you very much, Maddie. Mr. Speaker, this throne speech is filled with good news, and it is no surprise that I will be supporting it and not supporting the amendment moved by the member from Saskatoon-Newtown. The Saskatchewan Plan for Growth focuses on international engagement, innovation, fiscal responsibility, and investments in infrastructure, education, and training. Today, Saskatchewan's operating debt is $1 billion lower than it was in 2007. We have grown by more than 160,000 people in the last 10 years. We've recruited more than 750 more doctors and 3,400 more nurses of every designation. 13 long-term care facilities have opened. We have a new hospital in Moose Jaw, a new hospital being built in North Battleford, and a new hospital being built right in Saskatoon University. Saskatchewan has gone from having the longest surgical wait times in Canada to having among the shortest wait times today. Why is this important information, Mr. Speaker? Well, I can tell you why it's important to my family. My mom just received a new hip. Earlier this year, she was placed on the waiting list. She was in tremendous pain and her life had become severely restricted. She had plans to go with our church to Spain and Portugal. She wanted to cross off a trip to Fatima off her bucket list. In late May, she received a call that her surgery was going to happen the first week of June. She got that new hip, did her physiotherapy, and in late September went on that trip. And she visited Fatima. Mr. Speaker, that outcome wouldn't have been possible under the NDP. She would have languished on the waiting list for over a year while sitting in pain, waiting for her turn to come up. The investments we made to ensure that the waiting list was reduced had real consequences for my family, and I'm grateful and thankful for that. The Jim Pattison Children's Hospital of Saskatchewan is on time and on budget. I can't say enough about what that means to my family, our constituency, our city, and our province. Our government and our Premier made a commitment in 2009 of $200 million after the project had languished under the NDP from 1992. The NDP just didn't think it was an important investment for the citizens of Saskatchewan. However, just 2 years after our first mandate, we took action. Our investment now is almost $236 million. We're finally getting a new children's hospital because the people of Saskatchewan deserve it. Construction is 70% complete, and within 2 years, we'll have a world-class facility right here in Saskatchewan that will provide excellent care for mums and kids alike. Now, why is this investment important, Mr. Speaker? I can tell you how it would have affected my family and how it will affect my family. My niece was born with some huge health challenges. In fact, it was touch and go as to whether she was even going to make it. But she's a fighter, and while she continues to have challenges, has grown into a playful, happy young girl. When she was younger, my brother and his family had to take extensive time off work to care for her. Now, this included many trips to specialists out of our province. I just think of all the stress that caused him and his wife, not to mention our extended family. It would have made that experience much easier if they had been able to get care for Anna right here at home. The stress and expense of traveling to another province is overwhelming, not only for Anna, but for our whole family. The new Children's Hospital will help hundreds of families like mine by keeping our kids close to home, providing best-in-world care and comforting families in their time of need. So how does the 2017 throne speech affect Saskatoon University? Well, I can tell you lots of ways, Mr. Speaker. I always like to tell a story, and this one is very compelling. Derek Reimer owns Concept Sign Group in Saskatoon. Derek moved out of Saskatchewan to go to school in 1993, and he moved to BC. He stayed there and bought part of an existing business after high school in 1999. The NDP were in government in BC, Mr. Speaker. It was tough for small business. He was paying staff out of line of credit. Those of us that have worked in small business and have owned small businesses know how gut-wrenching it is when payroll is coming up, the money isn't in the bank, and dozens, or perhaps even 3 or 4 people are counting on you to make that payroll. It keeps people up at night, it causes them stress, causes stress for the whole family, and it makes people sick. That happened to Derek more than once. When the Liberals were elected in 2001 in BC, their policies helped Derek's sign shop grow quickly. Sales grew exponentially from 2001 to 2006. They hired more staff, provided great customer service, and became profitable. Now, at that time, Derek's niece was working with the Premier's marketing department, or marketing committee, prior to the 2000 election, and she told Derek it looked good this time around. So with a huge leap of faith, he sold his shares in his Kelowna business in October 2006 and moved back to Saskatoon in January 2007. Our Premier and the hope the Saskatchewan Party inspired for Saskatchewan was the only reason he moved back. He had confidence that we knew how business worked and we would set the policies for success for his business. Derek started Concept Sign Group shortly after the Sask Party government was elected. He hired 3 employees and they went to work. Now fast forward to 2017, just this last year, Mr. Speaker. Concept Sign Group now has 10 great employees. His business is thriving and contributing to the local economy while helping all of their customers succeed. In fact, Mr. Speaker, they're so busy that one evening last summer, I was waiting for some printing that I needed done for a project of mine. They're so busy, Mr. Speaker, that I had to actually go out on site and help Derek and his team because they were installing signs for a new development in Saskatoon. It was a new development called Brighton. I went out and I helped, and we got the project done, and because of that, in spite of my help, actually, not because of my help, but in spite of my help, Mr. Speaker, I got my project done too. That's how busy he is. That's how dedicated he was to me, and that, Mr. Speaker, is the way Saskatchewan works today. Mr. Speaker, policy matters. It mattered to Derek, it matters to business, and it matters to every person in Saskatchewan. And let me tell you what else Derek and his team have accomplished. There's rarely a charitable event that I attend that Concept Sign Group is not a part of. Whether it's golf tournaments, charity dinners, or gala evenings, it's the exception when you don't see Derek and Allison in attendance, and all the signage provided for free to whatever organization they're supporting. Derek's also an active member of VIPON, whose mandate it is to have a day of fun and good fellowship while helping those less fortunate. Through this organization, they've raised more than $5 million for those with intellectual disabilities. So, Mr. Speaker, the point of my story of Derek and his company has three points. One is through our government's policies, we have attracted and retained many new businesses. Number two is bringing our lost generation back to Saskatchewan. Number three is the amount of philanthropy these small businesses generate through being good corporate citizens and proud members of our community. They give back so much to our communities and nonprofit organizations that their contribution is really invaluable. We have much to be thankful for, Mr. Speaker, and we should be thanking people like Derek and his team at Concept Sign Group for coming back to our province and investing their money and their time in our communities. His business, co-workers and staff, and our province will directly benefit from the announcement in the throne speech that we will be raising the small business income threshold from $500,000 to $600,000, the highest threshold in Canada. This will allow small business like Concept Sign Group to keep more money in their business, expand, reinvest, and create new jobs and opportunities. What I found interesting, Mr. Speaker, is when the throne speech was read, and the NDP were speaking about this initiative, I heard something alarming. The comment was, and I quote, "It does not reduce small biz taxes. It allows larger businesses to take advantage of the small biz rate." Really, Mr. Speaker? Who thinks like this? Obviously, it's someone from the old way of life. We don't think that way in Saskatchewan anymore, Mr. Speaker. I, for one, am sure glad we've left those days behind. So let's talk about Saskatoon for a while. This year in Saskatoon, we're going to be sharing in revenue of $48,427,797, Mr. Speaker. That's up 161% from 2007-2008. At that time, in 2007, it was $17.8 million, Mr. Speaker. As a former member of City Council in Saskatoon, I can tell you, we really appreciated the investment in our municipalities. In February 2009, new on-campus residents of the U of S was granted $15 million for that project. November 2009, University of Saskatchewan research rooftop renewal, $6.375 million. October 2008, U of S Canadian Cooperative Wildlife Health Centre, $240,000. Mr. Speaker, I could go on and on with that, but let's talk about some other things that are going to be helping Saskatoon and Saskatoon University. Let's talk about education, Mr. Speaker. This year, 21 new schools accommodating more than 11,000 students opened their doors for the first time. These schools are located in Regina, Saskatoon, Warman, and Martensville, and were completed in less than 2 years. Altogether, we've constructed or renovated 65 schools during the last decade, including several new community schools. I also wanted to touch on some new curriculum initiatives. A pause on curriculum development has been lifted, and curriculum renewal will continue in a number of subject areas. What's of particular interest to me, Mr. Speaker, is we will also begin the development of a computer coding curriculum to help prepare students for careers in science, mathematics, engineering, and technology. The reason that is of importance to me is I had a conversation with the folks at SaskTech at Innovation Place at the U of S campus recently. They're working with the Ministry of Education to develop Saskatchewan into a key tech centre in Canada and the world. They did tremendous work and provided our government with a discussion paper on how to strengthen the tech sector and make it the best in world place to develop, build, and grow a healthy, prosperous tech community right there in Saskatoon. Part of their strategy is to get computer coding into the school curriculum to help prepare students for career in science, mathematics, engineering, and technology. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? We listened. We listened, and it's in the throne speech. I'm excited about the sector and what it will mean for the U of S, Innovation Place, and all the other tech companies that are currently housed there. CoLabs is doing fantastic work already, providing incubator space and mentoring for tech startups. Our economy will grow exponentially with these strategic investments in our kids and our technology. So I could go on and on, Mr. Speaker, but I'll let somebody else take my place. I won't be supporting the amendment, and I will be supporting the motion made by the member from Estevan. Thank you.